Joining me now is the Foreign Minister of Latvia, Baiba Braže, live from Latvia's capital, Riga. Foreign Minister, great to have you back on the show. Let me pick up the conversation where our Fred Pleitgen has just left off. And we are starting to hear rumblings, reports of proposals from inside Trump's transition office, and according to Wall Street Journal, one idea that's being floated around, which probably you've seen, would involve Kyiv promising not to join NATO for 20 years. Is that something? Is that an idea that Latvia can get behind?
Thanks again for having me. Great to see you. And as for your question, in our view, every country has a choice. Every country is a sovereign country to decide what alliances it wants to join. Whether Indonesia wants to be part of ASEAN or Japan wants to have its treaty with the US. Latvia has decided it wanted to be a member of the EU and NATO, OECD, other international organizations, so we did that. So Ukraine has the same right. It's ultimately upon Ukrainians to decide which organizations they want to join. And then it will be a decision for those organizations, not for the third parties, whether it's Russia or anybody else, to accept or not new members. And that's where we are. There was a time where Ukraine didn't want to be a member of NATO. Now it wants to be a member of NATO. It's very convincingly moving towards it with interoperability, with standards, with commitments. It's the strongest army in Europe currently. Let's put it that way.
Let me phrase the question differently, because, of course, President-elect Trump has said that he, and we heard him that in that report from Fred, that he would end the conflict, end the war in a day. He didn't offer any details. What do you think, Foreign Minister, that Putin will be prepared to give up? What would he give up? Would he want peace, or what would be the quid pro quo, you think? Because as we know, he's
You're asking me to speculate. I'm not going to do that. I'm certainly not going to go into ifs and whats and hows and so on and so forth. But what we need currently, and I think we are getting that both from President Trump, President-elect Trump, but also from his early appointments, is strong leadership. We need strong leadership. We need strong defense. We need strong alliances, friendships, very clear commitments to each other. And that's, I think, we are quite convinced that that's what we are getting with the incoming administration.
Let's then focus on that, because we all remember what kind of a testy relationship that the president-elect had with NATO. Of course, suggested to pull the US out of the defensive alliance unless all the states met their spending. I think it was 2% of GDP. And I think on the whole, the majority have, right? They're meeting that 2% target. But, you know, Trump has repeatedly attacked NATO. What do you expect this relationship to be like this time around?
Listen, President Trump was absolutely right to point out, I mean, the way he pointed out might not have been done by some other leaders. The way he did that was his way. But the message was very correct. And we have ourselves pointed it out time and again, that 2% is a minimum for defense funding. The times are testy. This is international security crisis. There's war in Europe. Everybody needs to commit at least 2%. Next year, Latvia will be spending 3.5%. As for the military assistance to Ukraine, the Nordic-Baltic region, the Nordic-Baltic Eight countries, are the second biggest military aid provider after the US to Ukraine. So if we look at the GDPs, if we look at the totals, we are sure that there could be others who could be number two. But currently it's the Nordic-Baltic region. And so on our side, in the northeast of Europe, the commitment is full, and we fully support that call for 2% or higher funding. We fully support the investment in defense, the defense industry support. We also clearly see that the assistance that the US has provided to Ukraine has benefited US industry. There have been factories that have restarted production of various, whether it's ammunition or providers and so on and so forth. So it's an economic benefit as well.
Foreign Minister, as always, great to have you on the show. Thank you very much for taking the time to speak to us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, one of the world's most